on creativity. Today we're on location at Gilroy High School, and I am very fortunate to have two wonderful guests with me that are going to help make handmade books. So I would like them right off the bat to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Eric Canto. I'm a senior here at Gilroy High, and I've been involved in the art program for about 3 years.
Awesome. And?
I'm Karina Rivas, and I'm a junior here at Gilroy High School.
And?
Well, I've been involved in art for at least a year in class, and then I took another class here.
You can do this at any age. We've had really small kids do this. And it's fun, fun, fun. Yeah. We're going to make 3 kinds of books: accordion books, origami books, and actually take old books and recycle them and do sculpture. Because it's very, very just simple supplies. First of all, paper.
Yeah.
Everyone has paper.
Watercolor paper right here.
And it can be any kind of paper that you want. And tape, glue, scissors, and then something to color the book. Today we're using watercolor, and these are just the simple, easy watercolor pans. Kind of make this one today. This is watercolor, and you can see that. Stretch this thing out. You can use it as a screen on a desk. You can actually, if you had it running the other way, you could actually drop it and it could become a hanging on the wall. You could write in it. You could do all kinds of things, but it becomes a beautiful little surprise when you open the book. And then the front is collage. These are all little small accordion books. Some of them are very miniature that were just painted on, and then you can actually stick your copy or your type or your handwritten message on there. And this is one that's just a collage cut out of a magazine. You can have your kids just cut things out. What do they want for Christmas?
And just put it all together.
And this one, I took a photography class and just made the book to hand in as my final. And you can put the picture inside and then, do that. Or you can put flowers. You can collect whatever.
So there's a huge range of possibilities with these books.
Endless possibilities.
Endless possibilities.
Yes. This is your paper, and we pre-folded it, of course, because we want it to go fast and easy. So you have a piece of paper. Now this is 2 pieces of paper put together, and it's just seamed down the middle because we want it to be a longer book. Okay, so the paper is folded, and then it's just kind of like you just fold it back and forth. You start folding it like an accordion, back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's folded and folded, and then you have your pages of your book. So here's this long, long book that goes forever. Now, to paint this, and I was going to actually paint on this, but I'll get in your way. So we'll just paint. The first thing you do with a watercolor is you take water, and we're going to do a wet-on-wet technique. But you take water and you put them in all of your colors. So all of these are all full of water. Not much. I mean, you just take a tiny bit and just drop it onto the color. And if you do that before you start, what happens is the color sinks down and it kind of gets with the water and it's nice and moist. So when you put your brush into it, you're not swirling it around trying to dig that color out. Do you have any tips?
Watercolor, the color really pops when you put salt, just salt in your water. That really helps make the color stand out more.
Oh, that's a great idea. Right in the water?
Yeah, you just put salt into the water and it makes the colors pop.
Because I've thrown it on top.
Oh, I put it in my water, but really, it wouldn't matter.
Awesome. This one, I think I'll do a wet on wet, which is just taking your paper and wetting it first. And you can just make sure that wherever you want to paint is wet. Now, watercolor kind of follows the water.
Yeah.
And the idea of the name watercolor is mostly water.
Right.
Very little. What are you going to do, Eric?
Well, I'm thinking of also doing a wet on wet because I like the results
I do too.
that you get.
I had tulips for, a bouquet, and the petals started to fall, and actually I was inspired by the petals of the tulip. So what I did is I just took the yellow, and then I took the orange. I love double loading because it just makes them mix together right on the paper, which is
Right.
really, really cool. Then just start putting it down, and what happens is these become these wonderful random blends. And I paint like a madman all the time. I'm not a real precise painter, so I like it just to flow out. So what colors are you using to get that nice blend?
I'm just use dark purple, which is like any other purple, and then the dark blue, and I put it in the center. And the way because I wet it first, like the water just spreads out on its own, and it's really easy to do.
And it gets that bleed.
Yeah.
They call that
Yeah.
a bleed, when it just kind of like takes it away.
Yeah.
And it becomes almost like, it looks like somebody has a mohawk.
Yeah, or like if you like airbrushed it, yeah.
So you can do it like that. And what are you doing here?
Well, I'm also doing kind of a pattern with the watercolor. I like really intense colors. I don't have anything against dark colors, but that's just my preference. So I'm using oranges and reds and such.
So we're all using more than one color, and you're using more than one value of the color.
Yes.
You're using a light and a dark. And that's really important, because if you just stick to one color, it's not as vibrant, and it doesn't have that intensity that you get with two. So just kind of, mine is very wet, your paper is a little bit drier, so you're getting more lines.
Right.
So if you don't want to have the bleed, or you don't want to have the flow and the actual blending of the colors together as they want to, you can control it more by not wetting the paper. If I take another color, like it had a little bit of a green at the bottom where it was attached, these petals that were on my beautiful tulips, you can actually start blending, but you have to be careful and know what colors mix and how they turn out. Because now this is turning not that vibrant green, it's kind of turning a little bit of a brown.
Yeah.
Because if you mix a warm color and a cool color together, you're going to get like a brown or a gray. So basically, you just, paint around, and then when it's dry, fold it up, and it has all the pages that are done and dry. And then you make the cover. Now this is just matte board, and it's a heavy board. You can use cardboard, you can use any kind of sturdy paper that you have. And I covered this with a green, it's kind of like a grass cloth. Now, I wanted the inside of the book to be reflected on what was on the cover, because I think that's kind of what you see when you look at a book. You kind of think, what's inside the book, and you look at the cover, and it gives you an idea.
Right.
So what I did is I painted some extra papers with this kind of a splatter, and I actually, splattered it down and got the little spots and stuff like that. And then, just have them here, and made the flower. So on this, to get this, I took the watercolors that I had actually just splattered. You can see I ripped. And I like ripping because it gives you a more random,
Sort of look.
yeah. And depending if you rip this way, you get that nice line.
yeah.
Or if you rip the opposite way, you don't get the line.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually make a white edge depending on which way you rip,
okay.
which is
That's cool.
cool. Okay? So, you can figure out how you're going to do your petals and just arrange them down and then glue them. And then you have the outside reflecting what's on the inside, plus it's a collage.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're making your own kind of design as well. So that's how that was created. And I just love this because I think it's just got so much,
Yeah.
Personality. So that's the accordion book. And I think what you're doing is absolutely lovely because it's got so many different kinds of colors, and you could actually take these and fold them up, and yours is as bright as the sun.
Right.
So now we're going to move on, and we're going to do the second book, which is an origami book. Now this is a little bit more difficult. This book is not like easy peasy like we did this one, which is just folded paper and spread out. This one has a little bit harder fold. So
Right.
because it's harder, I'm going to have Eric do the honors. First of all, I want you to show your book.
Okay. Well, this is my finished origami book. and I used pen and ink to fill mine in. It's in progress, like it's not finished, but yeah, this is basically what you end up with.
These are a couple that I did, and I actually did this with a 5th grade class, and they could do it, you know, and there
Yeah.
was 30 of them at once, and so
Sounds hectic.
yeah, it's hectic. So this is the Origami Book. That's the cover, and I actually did the 2 sides. So, and then when you open it up, it almost is like a life of its
Yeah.
own.
Gives it depth.
Right.
And it's so cool. I mean, you could,
It
you
is.
could
It's
hang-
very
It is.
You could hang it like that, and it becomes a dimensional sculpture. You could put it on a table, you know, with, I could
Yeah.
see it as just a piece of sculpture.
Right.
Or you could, you know, write in it and actually have it as
Yeah.
a little book. This is another one that I did that I did this really fast. I textured the cover and glued some flowers and then just stamped inside. And I think the fun part is just this wonderful way it folds out.
Yeah.
You know. And this one I did, actually bought the book and then collaged over it and started making my own story because I could.
Right.
And I put the little origami book
And
Oh wow.
in the middle.
very cool.
It's almost like a pop-up book.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
a pop-up book. You could do that on all the pages and have them all like just
Yeah.
popping everywhere. So Eric, why don't you just start and show us how we begin?
All right. Well, you start off with just a regular square piece of paper, and these are colored, but you can use white or you can use even watercolor paper like she did here. And you start by folding it in half first.
All right. So in half.
Right. Then you open it and fold the other half. So you have kind of like a cross in the middle. And then you fold once diagonally.
So once diagonally. So you have triangle.
Yeah. Right. Then you fold back once diagonally also again.
Little sticks out here. These are little tongue depressors. If you have really super thick paper, the best thing to do is when you fold, kind of go like that, and it really makes a nice crease. You don't think it would, but it does. Okay.
And then you just fold in your edges, these sides. And then you have your little square.
It's kind of like that thing that you make talk.
Right.
Yeah. Like you do in elementary school. It's like pick a number. Now what color?
Okay. Then you have to do another one, right?
Right. So you have
All
three
right.
right here. Or
So we have a square. It has to be a square to start with. It's not
Must
going to
be.
work. You have a square. The bigger your square, the bigger your
Yeah.
book will be. So fold it in half. And Karina, then what do you do?
And then you fold it in half the other way.
You fold it again, so you actually have 4 squares.
And then after that, we fold it diagonally.
Then you fold it so it becomes a triangle. And you
Yeah.
only do this once. Don't do it on the other side. And actually, if you use a stick, it's easier to make it into the little mouth. And then,
Then this one we fold it our sides. Well, we fold it back again. And then we'd bring the sides inside. Like
there
this.
you go. So now what do? We have a bunch of these.
well, now we put them together to.
So Karina,
Yes.
how do we put them together?
Basically, one's gonna be in and out. I like to think of it as like a mountain. Like this is the land that goes down, and there's another mountain, and then it goes down like this.
Okay, so you would
You'd get the glue,
be the surgeon.
and you just in one of the squares that does not have the crease in it. Enough so each side of the square on this one would stick on it. And then basically we're just gonna get a plain side that does not have the crease, and we're just gonna put it on top of the other square.
So what you do is you just
And it
keep
have this.
going back and forth. Like that. So what you have is you have a dip, and then you have a hill,
Yeah.
and then you have a dip, and you have a hill, like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can make them as long and as colorful as you want, which is really cool.
Right. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
pretty
I
much.
know, the length is endless.
Right.
So if you squeeze all these together, that becomes your book. This is one that is not glued together, and these are all white. So I glue down like this, back and forth, and you can see how this is watercolor paper now, so it's way stiffer. So it actually stands up a lot better.
Yeah.
So what you end up with is this.
That's me glue. Well,
These are all glued together. So you have this wonderful, blank, crazy, I don't know what it is. And these then are little blocks of mat board, cardboard, any kind of heavy board that are glued to the sides that actually make the covers. So you have this sandwich almost of paper, and it's really wonderful to do. Now I'm going to show you how I actually got the stamp on this, because this is a really nice texture. As you can see, this is rough. Now this is not done with watercolor. This is done with acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is a lot stiffer, and it has a lot more texture to it. It dries permanent. So it's another whole kind of paint than watercolor. So we're going to take the paint. This is more of a cobalt blue. And this is a brilliant blue, which is kind of like a turquoise blue. So I'm taking 3. I bought this little block at a stamp store, and it's really kind of neat. I would take the 3 colors, paint them, because you always want to do more than one color when you do anything, one value.
right.
It makes it way more interesting. Just tap that on there. And then you can take your pages and actually stamp. So I just put it down and stamped on it, and you get random stamps. So if there's color underneath, then you have that, but it's very, very highly textured. So what I did with this is I painted it one color, and then I stamped all the way through. So you can actually make use stamps that your kids have. You can make your own stamps.
Right, right.
You know, do whatever you can think about. So that's another thing. You can also take your little sponge and do the same thing. You can stamp with your sponge. So I'm going to stamp on this. So you can get the texture
Sure,
that
and you
way.
also get the texture. That's good.
And Karina, I want you to explain your origami book real fast, and then we'll move on to the sculpture.
Basically, I'm using just 3 colors, which was purple, blue, and black. The more water you add, the lighter the color is, so it gets this sort of pink color. So you could really make a color pop the more color you have in it. Basically, I just started out with these swirls, and it's not hard at all. I did this really quick, and I'm just basically I wet the paper first, and then I lay on the paint, and then I just go in afterwards.
So you have this wonderful, random, organic blue and
Yeah.
black and pink. Very beautiful. You would just take your little ends, glue them down, and decorate them, and you're finished and you're ready to go. So that's the origami book. So now we're going to move on to the book sculpture.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Eric, take it away.
These are sculpture books, and this is a finished product of one. This is just one thing you can do with these, and I think it's a great way to recycle them and, you know, make a great piece of art, pretty much.
This is beautiful. It's a book that was no longer used, and it just turns it into a piece of art. So you can take any book that maybe you're finding at the library, discard box, or not at the library, excuse me, but a lot of times, you know, you'll see them at, you know, flea markets or garage sales or something like that. So you can buy an old book, or you have a book that you're kind of finished with, and this is what happens to it. Let's show some examples. Just pull over the one
Alright.
that has,
This is one that I did.
this is the Eric's.
Yeah.
So what about this one, Eric?
Well, I pretty much just, I don't know, I was really going for a kind of like a whimsical sort of feel with this one, and I just thought of the sky, and I was like, what's better than the sky? What's more fun than the sky? So I just did this.
It's like a helicopter.
It's like a little
Yeah.
helicopter
How
with
cool. And
clouds
you
in it.
left the type.
Yeah, I left some words in the clouds.
Awesome. Awesome. And Karina's book is way over on the other side, which we will get in this 1 second. And
Thank you.
Karina, why don't you explain this book? This is yours.
Basically, I got my idea for my book through the cover, which said Global Resources. And I just left the cover as it is. And basically, I decided to draw, well, not draw. I just used some pieces around that I found around. They're just little turtles from a bracelet. And then I put a whole bunch of like garbage. And this is like the ocean. It represents the ocean, how it's like been polluted with a whole bunch of junk. And it's really making the turtle population die down, which now they're endangered. And that's basically my idea.
That's sad, actually, but it's a wonderful message.
Mm-hmm. And then I made this stand, so if your book cannot stand, you can actually stand it up. And it's just cardboard and tape.
Everything is just so simple.
Yeah.
So the books are actually regular books that you have found. You're recycling them. You're turning them into something else.
Yes.
So step one was, here's the book.
Just before anything even happened to it.
Doesn't know what it's in for.
Right. Now, to get the color on the cover, like on this one, if you have a book like this, you first need to put a cover of gesso on it, so you can get a sort of a canvasy kind of texture, so that you can paint on it or do whatever on it. This one already has a sort of canvasy texture, so you can just paint straight on it.
Okay, so why don't you show them
All right.
what that is? And this, in this case, this was all the pages, and with an X-Acto knife, you just
Or a box cutter.
box cutter, whatever, you cut the pages and you make your windows, whatever.
And you could just have it as far deep as you want. Especially if you have a deep book, you can like put something in there if the book is really thick.
Right,
Yeah, like this one.
Or this one.
So we're going to just start at the beginning. You cut your book out, and then you want to seal it
I
all
need a
up.
little
Yeah.
container so I can pour liquid starch. on it.
Okay, so I think you can use that, that little container. You cut the book out, and then you want to make it solid. You don't want to make
Yeah.
it so all the pages are flipping around and it's crazy, and you want to make it so that it has form and structure to it. Now this is
Liquid starch.
liquid
Yeah.
starch, the
Right.
kind that you would get your shirt all nice
Yeah.
and stiff.
Right. And that's how you get you need liquid starch, you get this sort of newsprint on the book sort of effect. So you start by ripping your newsprint. You really can't have, it needs to be ripped all the way around. And then,
Right. So, and this is just newspaper.
then you would dip it into your liquid starch, sort of scissor the excess off, and just, get it nice and wet. So the wetter it is, the more moldable it'll be onto the book. And then you start sort of putting it on there.
And the thing is when you have the ripped edges, they're frayed, and so they all kind of mesh together. So after that dries, then, after you put all the layers of all this newspaper, and it's all nice and smooth, then you go to the gesso.
Gesso. And another thing I like to do when I run out of like starch, you can also make it out of flour and water. Like you just pour a cup of water and some flour and some water, and it also works just as good as starch.
Great idea.
Yeah.
You can use a lot,
Yeah.
anything that's white, glue,
Right.
watered down, you can use a lot of different kinds of things. So you
Right.
put all that on. When that dries, then you take the gesso and you cover it. And the gesso is like a primer when you paint your house. And then after that's done, your book is all covered, and then you can go ahead and paint. Now this was done with acrylic, because acrylic paint does not flow like the watercolor. Watercolor, if you put it on the cover, every time you touched it with wet hands, it would just keep on flowing. So you want it to be permanent. So
Yes.
that's why that's permanent. So basically, that's your sculpture books. So I think we're just about ready to wind it up and call it a day. And I hope you, will try some of the books. Just in quick review, what we did was, first of all, we did the accordion book, which was easy peasy folded paper, and then we watercolored inside. And then second we did,
The
didn't show them yours.
the origami books, which are a little bit more complicated, but they're still really easy to do.
And
they
that's
fold up.
really running right now because it's wet. So
Yeah.
we did the origami book, which was also this one. And Eric did pen and ink in his. So these are the origami books. And then thirdly, we took a book that you have around the house that you're not reading anymore, a discarded book, something that doesn't have any use for anyone.
use anymore.
And it's turned into this fabulous sculpture that you can put on your table, you can
Right.
give to somebody and gift it as well. And it makes it reusable and beautiful at the same time. And also
Right.
could send a message.
Yeah.
So I think that covers all we're going to do today. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you try it at home because it's amazing what you can do with your children or with adults as well. I mean, it's fun to just make your own books. So we're going to thank Eric very much. Karina, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to also thank the Gav TV crew. We're going to thank Annie Tobin, who let us in her room and has helped in underwriting the show, which is fabulous. And Dr.
Dr.
Sanchez,
Sanchez,
our
principal of Gilroy
principal
High
at
School.
Gilroy High. And thanks to everyone. And we're going to say ciao
Ciao
for
for
now.
now.